Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at playoff props here for Saturday's playoff round games 3, as we are headed to Golden State, as well as back to, what's that other matchup? Back to Milwaukee there in the C's and the Bucks. We do like a good amount of stuff in here, so do want you to follow along. Make sure you're liked and subscribed so you can continue to get each of these playoff prop videos, as well as game videos that we're bringing you for each and every one of these postseason games. Also want you to head to playpicks.com. Make sure you're checking out Nate's great written work on there as well. All the playoff best bets, player props. Got some baseball coming your way these days as well, so plenty of action there for you. Playpicks.com. Also, thelines.com has a great odds checker tool for you guys. Make sure you're shopping the best NBA player props out there with that tool that we have for you, and also have the ability to win a $25 Amazon gift card. Head to play.thelines.com, and we will have that NBA Daily Pick'em Challenge up there for you guys. Get every single one of those picks correct, and we will send you that gift card. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for play props tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, I mentioned when we did this Grizzlies Warriors breakdown that Ja was getting plus 120 odds to be the leading scorer in this game, the same odds as Steph Curry on FanDuel. Well, they realized that was an error, and they have pulled that market altogether as they correct because Ja at 27.5 points, Steph at 27.5. One guy is way, way more likely to go over that number. It's Ja, and he's only up to 28.5 points after that adjustment because the Grizzlies, that is their half-court offense right now, is give the ball to Ja, let him do some stuff. And with Gary Payton knocked out of this series, sadly, I don't think the Warriors have any answers for it. Especially if he's going to be allowed to carry the ball every time you come out and guard him on the perimeter or try to trap him. But that's the NBA. They're not going to call carry. The Warriors, so maybe we'll see more blitzes coming from the Warriors trying to double team him. I think he can still break that down and probably still rack up assists. So 20.5 points or 37.5 points assists worth a look. At DK, they have this market up still in the sense that you can bet Ja minus 140 to outscore Steph. I feel very confident about that. Steph is not a huge usage guy right now. The Warriors are playing in a system. They have three guards who can fill it up, and he's not going to force things, but Ja is going to force things. He has to, and his usage rate sky high in this series thus far, 38.5%. Scoring 40 points per game, along with 8.5 rebounds, 9 assists. There is another tempting market on DK. 35 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists is plus 950, and just the juice you can get there would be worth hoping for those rebounds and assists to come through. I think he probably does get around 35 again here. You look at with Dylan Brooks suspended, that's kind of been a correlation. I mean, Brooks was out a lot of the season, so it's not like a huge difference here. But in his last 9 without Dylan Brooks, Ja did have this kind of usage rate, 37.5%, average 34 points per game. And that includes his career high 46, followed by career high 52 a couple nights later. Yeah. And he posted a 40% usage rate in 4 of his last 7 without Brooks. Interesting matchups here. Boston, Chicago, as I mentioned, Spurs, Knicks, just in the sense that those are teams that are really, at least 2 of them, the Knicks and Celtics, really physical defensive teams that are going to try to make you beat them in the half court, slow it down. And then 2 other teams in the Bulls and Spurs that just can't stop anything in the paint. And the Warriors, kind of a combination of both right now, with Draymond not necessarily up to his Defensive Player of the Year standards. They're kind of getting burned in the paint. They certainly haven't been able to keep Ja out of the paint. And he's going to keep having fun here, flying right to the rim, I would assume.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. I would say, the leading scorer for Ja sounds right in this one as well. I think the assist is where I go. Look, especially without Gary Payton, we talked about this in the game video. The only thing that Kerr has left is blitz the hell out of Ja. And at the very least, don't let him go left, man. Like he went left like 85% of the time that he was driving to the basket, finishing with those just, hanging in the air layups with his left hand, finding an angle off the glass. Why is he better with his left? I don't know. He's incredible right now, but you can't take the ball out of his hands, man. And I don't think that, if his shot isn't going in at the same clip it was in the first two, that creates a whole other world of problems for him. So I'm kind of expecting a bit of regression in the points. I think 28.5 remains fair. And I honestly think it's a little bit high, to be honest, just because I do think this is a game where maybe you're looking at assists now, right? And you're also talking about a guy like potentially Melton, who had a great game for them defensively in game two and was a great sub for Dylan Brooks playing his minutes in those games. Maybe you look at some DeAnthony Melton props as well, which I'm sure are still low, and I can pull up real quick as I'm talking about it. But that was a guy that I was continuing to think about from the standpoint that, like I said, he's going to get those Dylan Brooks minutes. And he is a guy who has benefited from Brooks being out, as he's, playing that same position as was the case when Ja was out and Brooks was out for the second time this season. And then you saw DeAnthony Melton have that like 5 or 6 straight games where he was averaging, more than 22 points or so a game. And he does not have props up, which is really annoying right now. But that's a guy that I would eye with Brooks out, and maybe the Ja assists at 8.5. They're, minus 105. I don't hate that as well. It's just the points that I'm a little bit scared of, but I still expect him, obviously, with that high usage rate, close to 40% at like 38 or so. You got to expect that he's going to continue to at least get, good numbers. I would say like a 25-10 game for him is a little bit more what I'm feeling. So if you want to, figure out if you do agree with that and want to tailor, you figure out how to bet on that with some same game parlays and things like that with adjusted lines and whatnot. But either way, I'm going to take a guy that I think is going to go completely off. It's sort of the 7-foot Ja, if you will, in this playoffs, which is Giannis. The two guys just running downhill at everybody and appeared near unstoppable at times. And I think that's going to be the Giannis that we're getting here in game 3 after, he was relatively shut down as far as Giannis in the playoffs has been, in these last two, still averaging close to like 27 points a game or so with double-digit boards. But in this one, it's 30.5 points. That's actually even money on DraftKings, minus 106 on FanDuel at the same prop. So definitely some better juice there on DraftKings. But we also talk about the 2.5 steals and blocks with Giannis, plus 115. That's based on the fact that he's going to play hard. He's averaging about the 2.5 or so in the last bunch of games he's played against the Celtics at home. And in the first two, he averaged, 2 combined blocks and steals. So he's just under that. He's right around it. But this is a game where he's coming out going balls to the wall right away on both sides of the floor. And you definitely love the hustle stats there for him. He's coming back home. Kind of my last point there. In his last 3 home playoff games. This in these playoffs anyway. Obviously, we're talking about against the Hawks, but still some solid numbers at home in general. 31 points, 14 boards, 5 assists. That's in just 34 minutes a game. In the first 2 games of this series, he played 38 minutes with a 43% usage. I'm not lying about that. So he shot the ball almost half the time that his team was on offense, and he scored plenty of points in those. I think he comes back home and his last 2 at home versus the C's. You also look at the free throws, 13 free throw attempts a game when he's played the C's at home. His last couple times, 33 points, 12 boards. It's Giannis. He's following a loss. This is the last thing because I did take the time to look this up. So I want to talk about it for 1 second, which is the last 5 games, including these playoffs, following a loss. We're talking about Giannis coming out with 30 points, 11 boards, and 5 assists in those last 5 games. So he's going to be coming out with a vengeance. All those scenarios really line up for us right now. At 30.5, I would take him near like 33 or so, to be honest, with those points.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is look at the third quarter of that last game in terms of how they responded to the Celtics. It was just give Giannis the ball. He played the entire third quarter, had 18 points, 8 of 11 from the field. Yeah, he had 3 turnovers, a couple costly offensive fouls, but he's not going to stop attacking without Chris Middleton. This is what the Bucks have, and they're going to keep, forcing the issue. Forcing the officials to make a call or not. And Giannis, if he's going to post that kind of usage rate, the Bucks are not really assisting anybody against that defensive scheme that the Celtics pulled out in game 2, rather than in game 1, where he was deferring a little bit, unable to get his shot and got more assists than points. I think we will still see some of the same in terms of single coverage on Giannis. And that brings us to our third pick, Grant Williams.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I did want to say the Giannis turnovers are ridiculously low, by the way, because you brought it up. He's had 11 in his first 2, and they're at 3.5 right now on DraftKings. I would take 4.5 and get even better odds, just so you know. I think he's going to continue to turn that ball over with that giant usage rate. So,
yeah, I mean, the Celtics and Grant Williams are trying to take charges on him all day. I mean, why would you not? The Bucks would be sunk if he has to sit in foul trouble. And Grant is one of the best guys in the league in terms of just going straight up, in terms of just guarding with his hands out verticality in the lane, being taller than this 6'6" frame that he has. He guarded Giannis for 6 minutes specifically in game 2, and it did not commit a foul, allowed 8 points on 4 for 10 shooting with 1 turnover from Giannis, and it really just frustrated him. So I think
that turnover was a charge, by the way, to your point.
Exactly. Yeah. That they reviewed for potential flagrant, one of the 11 they reviewed in that game. But the point is Grant's going to play a lot. I mean, Udoka went with a 7-man rotation with Marcus Smart out there, and no Daniel Tice whatsoever. So it's going to be more Grant Williams. He's far more versatile, far better defender than Tice. We'll see Smart, I think, eat into more minutes of White and Pritchard in that rotation, rather than Grant suffering anything. I mean, he played 27 minutes in game 1, had 8 points on a 10% usage rate. Not really a coincidence that, in 35 minutes, he had a 20% usage rate and the Celtics offense was flying. He does exactly what they need to do in the series, right? Which is either hit the open three or show and go, get into the paint, and find somebody else, or he's one of the few guys who's actually looking to finish with those little push shots. I mean, we forget he had a very versatile skill set inside the arc coming out of Tennessee, and he just kind of molded himself into a great 3-point shooter, which he has been. I mean, if you want to say the Bucks are going to bet on him missing that, like, I think the Celtics will take that bet. He's 8 for 13 from 3 in these 2 games, 8 for 12 from 3, hit the last 3 against Brooklyn. Like, he will knock down open shots, and he is not at all shook on the road. In fact, he's kind of one of those guys the Celtics lean on to maintain their intensity on the road. Since they started their hot streak, he's averaging 9.5 points with a plus 123 plus minus on the road versus just plus 11 at home. They need him more in those situations. That is all to bring me back to I'm psyched we just got some role player props up because it usually takes so long. But Grant at 9.5 points, minus 108 odds. Love him to go over that. DK is offering minus 120 for him to hit 2 threes. I think he probably hits 3 here or at least 2. So I think both of those are solid bets rather than trying to chase some points from the stars.
Yeah, no doubt. Grant Williams on the all big booty team for sure. That's what helps him play above his 6'6" frame as well. He's got the dimensions of Charles Barkley and actually a few more inches on him. And that 3-point shot became so smooth, man. It's silky. It's wild how good he's become. He's one of those guys that was kind of on the all surprise team where if you had told me at the very beginning of the season Grant Williams was going to be a key contributor playing 35 minutes in a playoff game versus the Bucks, I would have been like, well, then how are the Celtics even in the playoffs if they need Grant Williams to be that good? And it's like, well, they don't. At this point, he's kind of cake on top of everything, and the rotations that they have allow them to stick a guy who's 6'6" but can guard guys 5-6 inches taller than him because of his size and the way he uses his body. I love Grant Williams. We all wanted Baby Davis to kind of be this. He never panned out, and Grant Williams is going to soar and definitely make a good name for the shorter all big booty team for sure. So I'm going to move on. Lastly, here with a guy who's headed home, role player, if you want to call him that. Jordan Poole might be better than a role player at this point. That might have been a disservice. He's only coming off the bench because he does add that spark, and he played it very well and kind of figured out how to come off the bench in the first 2 games, I would say, in Memphis, as Steph got back in the lineup. This game, he probably is back in the starting lineup. If he's not, he's going to be playing even more minutes than he was because Gary Payton Jr. Is not going to be playing. As we know, he's out of these playoffs at this point after that dirty play by Dylan Brooks that will leave him on the sidelines as well for game 3. Poole's props are at 22.5 points plus 108 on FanDuel, which I really, really like. And you could add the assists on DraftKings. Is better odds there with the assists, 26.5 points and assists combined for him. I still honestly I think the points are where you go for this. It's a lot of, like I said at the top, him coming back home and playing, in Golden State now, where in these playoffs at home he's got a 26% usage rate and scoring pretty much the same on the road and at home. But it's about the fact that his usage rate goes up a bit at home. His minutes on the road are actually higher because at home they've actually blown a bunch of teams out. So he's played about 29 minutes a game at home versus 35 on the road, where they're really looking for more offense on the road and can't find it. But at home he's been so efficient, including 52% from 3, that he's contributed to these blowouts. He hasn't even had to play more minutes. So he's just so much more efficient at home right now, including almost 4 threes a game, where that prop, by the way, on DraftKings, minus 105 for him to hit 3 threes in this game. Really like that. I said he's hitting near 4 at home so far. And he's likely getting the start. He's likely going to see Ja on him, which is, I think an advantage, Jordan. I think if those guys are guarding each other in this game, advantage offense for both of them for sure. But they're really the only two guys on the court athletic enough to even, be able to guard each other at this point. Although D'Anthony Melton, he'll be in there, but they want him on Steph a little bit more, yada, yada. So anyway, I think, this is a good game for him to continue to shoot from deep, where Memphis is actually much worse at home, or excuse me, on the road in terms of their 3-point defense, where they allow teams to shoot 36% versus the 33.5, 34% at home. So yeah, I think this is a good opportunity for Poole to get those 22.5. I mean, he's scoring more basically though at that, right, in these playoffs. And I think this is a game where you continue to like points for the Dubs and needing him to play really well.
You call him a role player, and he's, the number 2 option now. I mean, Clay is still trying to get back to where he was, but anybody watching this team knows that Poole is number 2 behind Steph right now. Definitely in terms of creating offense and finishing in transition, which is key here. Memphis has been turning it over like crazy in these playoffs, allowing 18 points per game off turnovers in this series. That's where I looked for Poole to get some hay here, and to just clap back as he continues to get embarrassed by Ja on the defensive end. He got dropped a couple times, and hopefully the Warriors are going to try to keep him off Ja, that's for sure. But I think they're going to have to start him with Peyton out. I think we'll see heavy minutes, and that's why he's averaging 22 in 29 minutes at home. But just give the man some more run and let him do his thing.
Yeah, and he's confident as hell right now. By role player, I meant young players. Young players play better at home in the playoffs. I think that's what I meant. But either way, yeah, some big things from Poole tonight in these games. I think we're going to have a ton of fun watching both of these games. We're going to have a really good matchups here. These are the 2 best series right now. Obviously, they're the 2 that are 1-1, and these are the 2 that we like to continue to go a pretty far distance. So let's continue on. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with these player props videos we're bringing you, as well as each and every game video during these playoffs. And until we see you next, happy betting.